It is a great honor and a privilege to introduce Yitzchak Shukron. We're here in your beautiful home in Givat Shmuel in Israel. And Yitzchak, your family has the distinction, and it's an incredible distinction, that it's the first family to have children born in Spain since the Inquisition.
That's correct.
So if you could tell us a little bit about your background and your family and how you came to Israel.
Very good, excellent. So as we all know, in 1492, in August, there was this decree by the Christians that the Jews had two options at that time: either to leave Spain and go to Portugal, and afterwards in Portugal they were also expelled, but they had two options in 1492, was to leave Spain in their own will and still be Jews, or if they wanted to stay in Spain, they had no other option but to convert to Catholicism. And after many Jews that did not want to leave Spain, and they stayed for many generations, they were persecuted generations after generations until 1823. That was the last time that they killed suspected Jews in Valencia, in the middle of the plaza, what is called the main center. They were still being burned because they had a thought that they were keeping Judaism in secret. This was from the times of the Inquisition, from the side of the Catholic government. Now, what happened is that the Jews that did not want to leave and they stayed, they were persecuted, but the Jews that left, they left in their own will. At that time, our rabbis, they decreed a decree that it's called Cherem al Sfarad. What does that mean? Our own rabbis said like this: I don't allow any Jew to live in Spain as a Jew for the next 500 years. And that was only from our side. We were expelled, but our rabbis decreed that that's going to be happen. It's going to be taking place for 500 years. So what happened? Many kings lived in Spain. The Bourbons, for 500 years. What happened is that in the late 1950s, early 1960s, Jews from Morocco that decided to leave Morocco, most of them either went to France, most of them either came to Israel, but there was a very few Jews from the north of Morocco, from cities like Tangier or similar, that they spoke at that time in the north of Morocco. They spoke Spanish, French, and obviously Arabic. Because those Jews, they decided not to go either to France or come to Israel or other places. They decided a very small amount of Jews, maybe at that time maybe 12 families, they decided to come to Madrid in Spain. Now in Madrid there was nothing, because it was prohibited to live as a Jewish person. There were no synagogues, there were no schools, obviously there was nothing. So they came. My father was one of those that came to Madrid, and they started this little community, and this was all under the regime of the General Franco. Franco was in the side of the Nazis, with Spain, Italy, and the Germans, and obviously Marshemo, Hitler. Now what happened is that between 1936 and 1939, before the Second World War, Spain went through a civil war. This civil war took 3 years. Franco won the war, but Spain was really at a situation where they were tired and there was no way that they could help the Nazis and the Italians. At one point in time, Hitler came to the north of Spain and met with Franco and asked him that he wanted Spain to collaborate in the war, in the Second World War. And he said, but no, by no means I'm going to collaborate. And he stood Hitler, and Hitler had no choice but to take it as it is. And what happened is that then Franco allowed secretly, not that everybody knows, he allowed the Jews to start coming into Spain, and he allowed them secretly to open up a small synagogue that was in the basement. It was no public, it was not public, and it's known to many of our Jewish people that in many of the consulates of Spain in Europe, they were giving, under the permission of Franco, this was not known, they were giving passes to escape from the Holocaust and come through Spain under the condition that they will go to South America. Okay, so you could go to Yad Vashem, which is in Jerusalem, and see that they're among the saviors of the Goyim, which is called. There's there a couple of the ambassadors of Spain, like the Hungary, that they were giving like up to 5,000 passes for all those Jews from Saloniki, from other places. If they could prove that they had some sort of roots from Spain, they could come to Spain and flee to South America.
It's been said, and I've read that with Franco, that he had some Jewish blood, that they say that descendants of Marranos, or he did have some Jewish connection.
Correct.
Because many did go via Spain, and then they went to Portugal, and from there onwards to...
That's correct.
To the States or South America.
The people that do bring his name Franco from the north of Spain, from the area of Galicia, which is northwestern Spain, and they say Franco. It's one of these Jewish old names, and that's why. But this is obviously the world doesn't really focus on this. What's important is the following. Is that my father, along with some other families, they decided to come to Madrid. They came to Madrid and they opened this synagogue underground. And after a few years, finally, in 1975, when Franco died, the democracy came back to Spain. Because Franco was a regime, it was for 40 years, he ruled in Spain as a dictator. In 1975, he died. In 1977, there was finally, the king was brought back, and the king Juan Carlos I, he became king in 1977. Now, under his democracy started, he allowed for the Jews to build a synagogue. They built the first synagogue. Now, this interesting story is that in the year 1992, and we're talking about 500 years precisely, after 1492, that the Catholics from the side of Isabella and Fernando, Católico, they decreed that no Jew was allowed to live in Spain. In 1992, I remember I was a kid, I was 21 years old, I believe, because I was born in 1968 in Madrid. Now, I was born as the first family of Jews being born in Spain after 500 years as Jews. True, that was not recognized because I was born in 1968. My two older sisters, they were born in 1966 and 1962, but they were born as Jews. Now, in 1992, I remember I was in the synagogue, in the main synagogue. The King of Spain came to this synagogue with his wife. She still lives. They both live. Now, they came, and the king was in the man's side, and the queen was in the woman's side. And for the first time ever, a king of Spain came publicly to a synagogue. And after he invited the Jews to come back to Spain, because now he wants the Jews to come back to Spain. not that I want to do politics, but for what reason does the King of Spain want the Jews to come back? Maybe because he understands that the Jews bring a lot of good things to the country. So what happened? So there was this very famous act, and everybody came and took pictures and everything. Obviously, for democracy, it's a big thing for the democracy that we accept everyone as Spaniards. After that, the king and the queen, they went down in the synagogue, in this big building, and they signed a document. And that document, it's written the following: that I, the King of Spain, King of Juan Carlos the First, King of Castilla, King of Spain. He's got many titles. I think the fourth or the fifth title is King of Jerusalem. I invite the Jews to come back to Spain. And not only that, this is the most important thing. On that same document, he cancels the a decree of the Jews that are not allowed to live in Spain. For 500 years, no king in Spain ever abolished the act of Inquisition. He was the first one. Now I ask myself, why? 500 years. Why did not one single king already? They could have eliminated the act of Inquisition. And this is what I say: if our rabbis said 500 years, the words of the rabbis will happen. And it took precisely in 1492 to 1992, 500 years, because our rabbi said that for 500 years Jews cannot live there. So then my father came, met my mother, that she came from a family from Romania, and they left before the war. They left through Spain to Colombia, and they lived there. My mother, at the age of 18, decided to come to Spain to study. She came to Spain to study at the age of 18 to the university, and a year later met my father, who came from Morocco, and they married, and that's how we were born in Spain. So this is a small story about how the Jews survive generation after generation, no matter what happens. And you can see that how God rules the world in a way that he will make every single situation occur according to his plan, not according to the plan of the other nations of the world.
Yitzchak, can I just ask, so you are the first son, the first boy to be born in...
Among the first ones. I don't know if I am the first one, but definitely among the 10, 12 families that came from Morocco. I don't know if I was the first boy to be born, but I must be among the
very few.
Very few, of course.
And you had a Brit Milah?
Yes, well, it's very, very interesting. And
that's a circumcision.
And the circumcision, yes, I was circumcised.
Was there a Rav?
There was a Rav, yes, the Rav at that time. There was I remember in my circumcision that one of the persons that came was Mr. Laredo. He used to do Brit Milah, and he did the Brit Milah, and there were how do they say, the people that created this community alongside with my father. There was a rabbi. There was the Rab Ben Chimor. There was a Rab Ben. There was Mr. Berros. The people that came, and obviously there was the rabbi. And the rabbi at the beginning, maybe the Rabbi Ben Asuli, and then we had the Rab Moshe Ben Na'an, who up until today, he's been the rabbi for the past 40 years in Spain. And so the Rab Moshe Ben Na'an, Shielo Arichut Yamim, he is the one that received the King of Spain and invited him to the synagogue. It's quite an amazing story, because you can see how through the passage of time and the let's call it the hand of God, generation after generation, doesn't abandon his own people and the Jews, and everything goes surrounding the Jewish life, and for the good of everyone, not only for the good of the Jewish people, for the good of the whole entire world.
Did you ever ask your father why why his family decided to come to Spain?
For them, yes. I did. Not only I asked my father. My father passed away when I was 8 years old, so I didn't really speak to him quite so much because I was only 8. But I did ask my mother many times, and my mother tells me she had a long life. My mother asked me. I asked my mother. My mother told me. What did she tell me? She told me that for them, for these families, because they spoke Spanish, it was easier for them to come to live in Spain as opposed to go now to maybe to France. But most of the people spoke French as well. But they decided to come to Spain. They could do business. They could go back and forth. It was like it's right over the Atlantic, so it's very close. And they decided. It was very hard. There was no kosher food. There was no community. My mother tells me that they were receiving kosher meat from Barcelona, and at those times there were no planes. They would send the meat in the railway. By the time it got to the store, many times it was already. It would go to the garbage because there were no refrigerators at that time. It wasn't easy times, but they created this community little by little, and then up to today there are not so many Jews in Madrid, not so many Jews in Spain, maybe 25,000 Jews in the whole of Spain today in 2024, which is part of the reason why there's less anti-Semitism, because there are very few Jews there. It's not like in England or in France that they're being persecuted. Why? Because there are a lot of Jews. So in Spain, I'm not saying that they're in favor of the Jews or against the Jews. I'm not saying, but because there are less Jews there's less anti-Semitism.
Did you ever go to Toledo?
Yes, I've been to Toledo. I've been almost through all of Spain. I love Spain. It's a great, fantastic country, beautiful in all of its aspects. It's a beautiful country.
So Toledo, you actually see how what a strong community they once had.
For sure. Let's just say that for the past until 1492, the Jews, the Muslims, and the Catholics, they lived together almost in peace for almost 800 years.
It was golden
ages, because the Jews were there. And just when the Jews were expelled, that it started, if one looks at history, the decline of Spain. They threw the Jews away. The Muslims also were expelled, and Spain just started coming down from the height of they were ruling the world. Spain ruled the world at that time. They had discovered America afterwards, which they say that Christopher Columbus was also Jew, because on that day he left to on the 3rd of August. Now keep in mind that the Inquisition date was the 2nd of August, 1492. It was decreed that way. Now, there was the 2nd of August, 1492. Few weeks before, they decided to change with whether Isabel or Fernando, they were the kings. One of them decided to change it, and they changed the Inquisition date for one more day on the 3rd of August, 1492. Why? They don't know why, but they gave one more day. But we know why. Why? Because on the 3rd of August was Tisha B'Av. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu knows what will happen every Tisha B'Av. So they don't know this, but we know this. And so this is how things went in Spain at that time.
The Inquisition went to South America as well.
Yes, of course, for many years. Yeah, they were persecuting Jews all over.
And people, the Auto Fair, they had
of course. That's what I'm saying. Imagine 1492 until 1823 in Valencia. That was the last time the Jews were burned publicly, because they still thought they were keeping Judaism in secret. But we're not talking about a generation, 2 generations, 3 generations. 1823. It's recorded in the books in the National Library in Madrid. If you go to the National Library in Madrid, in the street Colón, very famous there, Castellana, you will see that. And you can go and search it. 1823. Amazing.
And they've got a painting, a massive painting of the burning of the RFA.
Yes.
In Madrid, in the museum.
Yes.
Wow. And how did you decide to come to Israel?
Well, I was very, very lucky. I decided that at the age of, I think I was 32, I decided that I wanted to marry a Jewish girl. And that was my desire. I was born in a family that kept the mitzvot and kept Shabbat. But my father passed away when I was 8. So it was difficult for my mom to keep on with all the mitzvot because the situation wasn't easy. She had to take care of 4 kids. And I had within myself always this idea that I just wanted to marry a Jewish girl. And after years, and I started working, and I worked I worked for many years in the stock market for the United States and everything, but I knew that I wanted to marry a Jewish girl. And then I decided to quit my job and go to the United States to look for a girl. I went there, I was there 4 months almost, and I would go meet this one and that one and that one. They said, and doing Aisha Torah Shiduchim, as they say, looking for a Jewish girl. I couldn't find one. And after 4 months, the Twin Towers, what happened in New York, and I saw everyone was depressed, and everyone in the United States it was not an easy time. So I said to myself, I didn't find a wife. I see people that are not happy and everything. So I'm going to go back to Madrid. I decided to buy a ticket, go back to Madrid. The day after I went back to Madrid, I went into this same synagogue. And the next day I met my wife and we married 6 months later. How? She came to work in Spain. They sent them from Israel. And she went to work. She went as she was going to be there only for 6 months. But I guess God had other plans for her and another plan for me. And the next day I met her. And 6 months later we married because she came from Israel already. And we married here in Israel. And then we married in Lag BaOmer. And then basically the way the story continues.
Can you show? You have a most amazing picture of your great-grandfather.
Yes, I can show it to you. This is a picture that had the merit to make it to Israel. Now, this was my father's grandfather. So his name is Rabbi Akiva Sananes from Tangier. Now, he didn't make it to Spain, but obviously his grandson is my father, he is my father when he married in Madrid to my mom. And I have the merit to have Rabbi Akiva Sananes here in Israel in his picture. So it's quite amazing story because you see how generation after generation there's always merit in our fathers that we have this possibility to think about our great grandfathers. So yes.
And Yitzchak, you have other pictures?
Yes, obviously. This is, as I show you, this is a book at the beginning I showed. This is a book that I wrote for the last 9 years. How to say thanks to God for everything in life. Not only spiritual things, but also physical things. Just give thanks to God that we have life, that we have family, that we have kids, that we have friends, that we can share with the world. And so I started writing this small little book, Thanks to God for Everything. After I finished 9 years writing little things about saying thanks, I went to my rabbi, I told my rabbi, remember this little book that I've been writing? So I finished the book, what do I do next? So he said, take it, save it in a good place for your kids so they will always see it, and start a new one. So I did, as he told me. I started writing a new one, but I said to myself 2-3 days later, if it's good for my kids, why it will be only good for my kids? Let's make it good for the whole people of Israel. So I took this little book and I decided to make it a book like this. This is already the 2nd edition, maybe the 3rd edition will come. Why? I decided to give it free to everyone. I don't want to make an issue about money, because it's not important. The important thing, I think, is for the world to know how to give thanks for everything. And in this little book, I put many pictures of all the people that appeared in this during these 9 years. I asked permission from them, and you can see my family. You can see Rabbi Akiva Sananez, my great grandfather, also in the book, and many people that appear in the book. Many friends, many rabbis during these years. In any event, I wrote it, and it's very interesting because I wrote it in Hebrew. When I came to Israel, I didn't know nothing of Hebrew. I started with the zero Hebrew. I went to study, and I didn't know Aleph, Bet, Gimel, Dalet. I didn't know, even though in Spain, thank goodness, they taught us to pray in Hebrew, but we didn't understand the meaning of the words. When you'd say Baruch Atah Hashem, we didn't know what we're saying, but we always prayed in Hebrew. So when I came, I started learning, and I finally, interesting, I wrote in Hebrew, and in the back I wrote something in English for the people that don't speak Hebrew, and I already translated it to Spanish. It's being translated.
Yitzchak, could you read from the back? If you could read the back.
In English?
Yeah, please.
So I wrote like this. Yitzchak Shukron, which is me, was born in Madrid, Spain. At the early age of 8, had to learn to say Kaddish for his father. He learned from his mother how to live life with joy, no matter what the journey brings. Isaac graduated from Brandeis University. I went to study. I got my degree at Brandeis in the United States, and completed his MBA in Madrid and Houston. Later in the 20s, he participated in the Jewish seminar called Arachim, an organization oriented to showing Jews the truth and beauty of the Torah, which brought him closer to religion. At the age of 32, he met the love of his life, my wife, obviously, Varda. And today, this was a few years ago, today, after 18 wonderful years, they are blessed with 2 daughters and 2 sons, and they are elated to call Givat Shmuel, Israel, their home. Now, professionally, Isaac worked for 13 years in the United States stock market under the umbrellas of Lehman Brothers and Prudential Securities. After making Aliyah, he started a new company as the sole importer of the Comfort Touch US-made adult diapers. Today, it's a company that's run by the Shukrons, who's my wife and myself, and it's a successful and helpful enterprise for the needs of the elderly. Personally and spiritually, Isaac opened a kollel in memory of his blessed father, Rabbi Abraham Raphael Shukron, Zichrono Livracha, may his memory be saint. And today they host 31 students who devote themselves to the study of Torah. He feels truly best, Toda Lecha. Toda Lecha means thank you. Thank you could be in Hebrew, thank you for female, thank you also in masculine and in feminine. In any event, the idea is to say thanks and give gratitude to the Almighty that gives us everything in life. A person that gives thanks for everything that he gets, that's what makes the world be a better world and a happy world. No matter what situation a person goes through in life, if you're able to give thanks and to appreciate all the good things, nothing better for that, for God and for the whole world. This is my way of thinking and my way of sharing the word of God and the word of unity between all the nations of the world.
Thank you so much.
And it's a pleasure.
So Yitzchak, I really want to thank you. There are no words. You are such an inspiration for all of us. And you are somebody we can all strive to emulate. You really are. Not only by your words, but by your actions. And I've been blessed to know you, and you've introduced me to Holocaust survivors that you have a personal connection with. So it's not only the work that you do, but you connect with the people that you are helping as well. And I just would recommend everybody, if you need the services, there's no better person. But I really want to thank you. Really, you should just have Mazel Bracha.
Amen, amen.
And an incredible story. And it's such an honor to know you.
Thank you. It's really a pleasure for me as well. And I really appreciate that you also help so many people and record all these stories. And this is what we're going to live for our generations to come. That they will remember the good, great things that you do and that the people have done in this world.
Well, I want to thank you.
Thank you very much indeed.